If you're looking for things to draw this February, I've got 7 for you in this video. So grab a sketchbook and some supplies and join me on this 7 Things to Draw challenge. I'm working in the Strathmore Mixed Media Sketchbook with some simple supplies like a pencil, watercolor markers, and a gel pen. Here you see me doing my warm-up exercises on newsprint. I feel these exercises are an important part of the drawing practice, so I like to add a few seconds of them to my videos to remind you that your drawing muscles, your hands, your arms, your eyes, they need a warm up too. I'm Donna Fox, and I'm on a mission to go from hobbyist to professional artist, and increasing my knowledge of what things look like is part of that journey. See, I have aphantasia, and that means I can't picture things clearly in my mind. So when I sit down to sketch or create some thumbnails for a larger painting, I'm not pulling from some vivid mental image. I'm pulling from my memory, the shapes, lines, and details that I've drawn before. If I haven't drawn something before, I need to get reference photos. And I don't always want to slow down to do that in my idea stage. The more things I learn how to draw, the bigger my visual drawing library gets, and the faster I can work. So this year, I'm drawing 7 things every month to build that library. Right now, I am drawing a Rowan tree, and I was attracted to this because it's the tree for the month of February. But I really love these clusters of berries, so that's why that's the first thing I went in to draw with a little bit of color. I realized very quickly as I was drawing this that I didn't get a good reference for a tree trunk. So I don't know exactly what these tree trunks look like, the Rowan tree's bark itself. I was really fascinated by these berry clusters, so I wanted to make sure I got those in. And the rest of the tree, I just looked at the general shape of the tree. I want to remember all of the details so that I can draw this tree. And I remember thinking it looked sort of like an apple tree. Nice and well formed with these red splotches. So from a distance, it looks like it could be an apple tree. And then I noticed this leaf pattern and the way the leaves and the berries worked together. And that's really what I'm memorizing here. So for me, a Rowan tree, which I'd never heard before, this challenge, it looks like an apple tree. So I have it matching what I have as a symbol for an apple tree, which is kind of a generic tree that we've all seen. So I have the symbol of an apple tree for a Rowan tree, but then I know that the leaves fall into this leaf pattern that I studied, and the berries are in these berry clusters that I studied, and that's the part that I have memorized for a Rowan tree. When it comes to adding a little color, just to help with my memory, I didn't even really know what color to make the trunk. So what we have here is a very generic, very loosely structured trunk because I don't have that detailed information. Now we'll move on to the next thing on the list, which is a violet. So I'm studying how a violet is formed. It has these 4 little teardrop shapes in the center and then 5 petals that come out of it. Now with the flowers, there are many different types of violets, and the other flower we did today is a primrose, and there are many different types of primroses as well. So I have references for you, and they are linked in the description. All of these references that I've used, you can find in the description if you would like to try to draw them as well. The African violet in particular, that brand or that species has these really interesting stems where they're hollow, or they kind of look hollow. They're like tubes that come out of the violet, and the tubes, the leaf grows out of the tube. So there's a really interesting way that it connects in the front and the top and around the tube, and it sort of unfolds into this leaf. So I was trying to capture that as well. I don't have much more to say about violets and primroses, so I'm just going to put on a little music while we watch the next two illustrations, and I'll be back for what happens after the flowers. And towards the very end here, I'm just making an amalgam of different ones of these primroses because they really all look very different for me. So I wanted to make one note of the difference between a primrose and a violet because to me they look very, very similar, and that's that centerpiece. There are 5 in the primrose and 4 on the violet of the center little bits. So now I've moved on to otters, and I start, like I do with many things, with a child's how to draw an otter image. And that lets me understand what things are essential for an otter. And then I go right into this drawing of an otter. It is often easier for me to sketch something when it's already been drawn. So that is often a stage in my learning to draw something where I find someone else's drawing and match that. It helps me understand what another artist has seen and used to break down what something is. Now, otters are adorable, and I watch otter videos in particular. I just think that they're so cute. So we watched the otters at the Oregon Zoo. So I'm sort of familiar with what an otter looks like, and I am able to piece it together from other animals that I've memorized parts of. I've also realized while doing this that from my perspective, it also looks like a ferret. I'm not sure what the difference is. I didn't look up what the difference is, but what I have learned about this otter will help me understand a ferret if I ever need to draw a ferret. It also looks a lot like a sea lion at the top, I think. So that helps me there as well. Versus the otter lying this way in the water, which is very clearly an otter. You know, it could be any number of those other animals that are sort of otter-like shaped or sea lion-like shaped. On the one on the left, with the exception of maybe the tail. But the one on the right is all otter all the time, and it's just an adorable little pose. Again, it is someone else's artwork, and I think this one might have been AI artwork as I look at the foot the feet look a little weird. So I might have grabbed an AI reference. You want to be careful when you do that because AI references aren't always accurate. And I think I might have grabbed one in this one. So I'm really focusing on trying to get a little bit of variation in tone from the texture that I'm working on here, the little line work, as I try to understand and remember the way the hair flows on the body, which is sort of easy. Otters are known for things rolling off their back, so they have this sleek, smooth fur. Now we're on to the next image, which is a chickadee. And I'm starting, you can't see the reference in this case, but it is another how to draw type children's reference. And then I pick another reference of a chickadee. I'm really looking now to see what makes a chickadee look different from other birds. So far, this kind of looks like any other bird. I don't know that it's a chickadee, but now I do. Because the thing to me that makes a chickadee is this swoosh around their head. It sort of reminds me of, I don't know, I think it's a Pepsi logo. I think it's the Pepsi logo. And then I decide, since this is the defining characteristic of a chickadee, I'm going to really zoom in on it right here. And you can see that it sort of looks very logo-like in the way that the one swoop comes down around the eye and down the back of the head, and then the other one comes under the chin. So that to me is the defining characteristic of a chickadee. And now here, I didn't move my camera, I apologize for that. So we're just quickly watching the edge as I draw a Luna moth. Moths are another thing. There are so many varieties of moths. So moth is the insect of the month for February. So I found here a difference between the butterfly and the moth. So I added that into the references as well because I wasn't sure of the difference. So I didn't know that the wings, the two pieces of the wings, the front and back, or the forward and the backward parts of the wings, on moths, they're connected. There's a hinge. And on butterflies, they move separately and independently, which is sort of interesting. Moths also have fatter, furrier bodies. Butterflies tend to be long and sleek. There are many other differences in their antennas, in whether or not they have a proboscis. Moths, often they live short lives, and in many cases, and here's the saddest thing I've ever heard, they don't eat. They store fat from their larval stage that lasts them through their lifetime. And that is just so very sad to imagine that at the end of your life, you're just not even enjoying eating. So you can see what my priorities are. As we get towards the end of the moth, I'm just playing with color, and there are many different colors of moths, but moths are often a duller shade, more browns, more natural colors than butterflies. There are obvious exceptions like the Luna moth. So I wanted to color this one all brown to help me remember that. It does take away a little of the magic of that multicolor pencil I was using. But it will help me remember to choose darker earth tones when I'm drawing moths in the future. But of course, the Luna moth, I just put a little bright green on it because it is a bright, beautiful green moth. And here's the last thing that we are going to learn to draw today. I take a whole page and decide I'm going to do a little spread of champagne popping with champagne glasses. So I have a couple of options here, what a champagne bucket looks like with some glasses next to it, what the bottle popping looks like, and then a hand holding a coupe style, I think it's called, champagne glass. In this case, I'm working throughout the whole page. I'm considering it a spread. So I am sketching in lightly in pencil, and then I go to pen and a little gray watercolor marker to add some depth. And I'm just going to let you observe the rest of this. There's nothing special happening, but you can see the way my mind is working as I build out this entire spread. I'll be back towards the end. So now that I'm looking at this in its last few moments, I can see I really needed to extend the length of that champagne bottle. It's a very short little chubby bottle, but the rest of the spread I like, and I feel like I can conjure up these images again if I need them. It's important to remember that if I'm doing any of these for a big work of art, I'm going to get a reference photo to do it. This is so I have some shorthand to call upon these images for quick sketches and just to develop my visual reference a little bit more. So that's 7 things for February, 7 more shapes in my virtual mental library. Next month, the bloom flower is Daffodils, which I am very excited about. Their sunny yellow telephone shape makes me smile, and I'm eager to learn how to draw it. And we're also drawing a deer, which I attempted during Inktober, and it did not go well. So March is my redemption arc. We'll see if this practice is actually paying off. And if you want to draw along with me, subscribe so you don't miss it, and drop a comment letting me know what you'd like to add to your drawing library. If I get some good suggestions, maybe I'll add one more bonus draw to next month. I'll see you in March.